Climate change is a global challenge and it impacts different regions in unique ways. And the effects of climate change vary depending on where you are. Some areas in the world face increased vulnerabilities to wildfires or air pollution and things like that. And then you have others that grapple with sea level rise and flooding. We all need to work together on this, whether it's the people out there collecting the data, the people who are dealing with the data, the people making the laws and the regulations. Like, we all need to be pulling together to change, I'm going to say, like, the status quo. And obviously, coming from a technology company perspective as well, like I do think that technology can also be a vessel to bring in all of these different parties together, right? So that we are speaking from one common place.
So for years now, we've been using historic data sets such as the FEMA flood program or even our shoreline setback ordinance here on Kauai as the source of authority for a variety of our policies. But what we are presenting to you folks here today is something known as the Sea Level Rise Constraint District, which was our first attempt at a comprehensive effort countywide to take information about future conditions, not historic data, but future conditions, modeled conditions, and bake them into our planning framework to mitigate structures and accommodate future flooding waters associated with sea level rise.
For our university and our community, flooding from storms and sea level rise is literally an existential threat. And that's our university football stadium and our downtown area with sea level projected, I think, out to the year 2100. It's really incumbent upon us to focus our attention and our efforts on using our skills, geospatial technology, visualizations, mapping, modeling, to help our community address these risks that we're facing.
Humanity is at a turning point. Addressing the global climate change challenge needs to be the world's top priority. More than a century of burning fossil fuels, together with unequal and unsustainable use of energy and land, lifestyles and patterns of consumption and production have resulted in global warming of 1.1 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. The 2023 Synthesis Report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change presents a comprehensive analysis of human-caused climate change and lays out pathways to available solutions.
This report clearly indicates that the world has the know-how, technology, and tools to address this problem. The problem is those tools and knowledge has to be implemented and deployed at a much faster speed throughout the world. And for that to happen, there's a need for very close collaboration between developed and developing countries. And we also recognize that there is still a large gap in financing support and also technology transfer from developed to developing countries. And this synthesis report indicates that those means of implementation is a critical enabler for the world to achieve the climate stabilization goals.
The extraordinary scope of the effort needed to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius was highlighted by the IPCC in 2018. 5 years later, a continuous rise in greenhouse gas emissions has made that challenge even more difficult.
So we know the warming is due to us as humans from simulations that we undertake with and without human influence. We know we've warmed by 1.1 degrees centigrade the globe already, and we know that unless and until we reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions, we will continue to warm the planet the window of opportunity to limit warming to 1.5 is rapidly closing. The window of opportunity to limit warming to 2 degrees is equally perilously close.
With every increment of warming, the severity of impacts across natural and human systems is projected to intensify. Changes in climate and extremes become more pronounced and widespread. We see changes like increases in heat waves and intense rainfall events that present risks to people and ecosystems around the world. The risks, impacts, and related losses and damages escalate, and when these risks combine with other adverse events, they cascade across all sectors and regions and are becoming increasingly difficult to manage.
Those who have historically emitted the least are the ones who are at the forefront of climate impacts. So those are the ones who are most vulnerable to the impact of human-caused climate change. And this is an important finding because this is important from a climate justice point of view, and it links to some of the new findings. We are finding that losses and damages are already happening, and again, losses and damages are being felt disproportionately by some of these more vulnerable communities.
Almost half of the world's population live in regions that are highly vulnerable to climate change. Millions of people are already affected by food insecurity. Around 50% of the world's population is experiencing water scarcity for at least some part of the year. In recent decades, people in vulnerable regions face a 15 times greater chance of dying from floods, droughts, and storms.
Concerning specifically the rate of warming, even if global warming continues, slower global warming allows us to adapt more easily or with less difficulty. Of course, there are levels of warming where adaptation is not possible anymore, and we are already reaching parts of these limits to adaptation. And the faster it goes and the higher we go, the more it will be difficult to adapt. At some point, we won't be able to adapt anymore.
Deep and rapid reductions in greenhouse gas emissions can limit warming to 1.5 or 2 degrees. The best estimate of reaching 1.5 is in the early 2030s. It is possible to reduce warming by achieving and sustaining net negative carbon dioxide emissions. However, exceeding a warming level and returning to it presents risks to ecosystems and other aspects.
The decisions made in this decade will determine the hotter and future world current and future generations live in. These decisions will impact life on Earth for thousands of years. Climate-resilient development, implementing measures and actions to adapt to climate change while reducing or avoiding greenhouse gas emissions can enhance sustainable development and secure a livable future for all.
The IPCC synthesis report shows that protecting, conserving, and restoring ecosystems is really important for accelerating action on climate change in this decade. Many high-carbon ecosystems, such as forests and peatlands, are valuable carbon stores that hold greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere and limit global warming. However, these ecosystems can only help us if we keep the level of global warming relatively low, such as by limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius.
This report recognises that climate, ecosystems and biodiversity and human societies are interdependent. Every action we take affects the Earth system. Effective and equitable conservation of approximately 30 to 50% of the Earth's land, fresh water and ocean will help ensure a healthy planet.
Depending upon the national circumstances, the countries can absorb our report's main suggestions of pursuing climate resilient development so that they can develop their own economy while at the same time reduce carbon emissions. So aggregated together, the world as a whole will be able to achieve net zero carbon goal within the next 3 decades.
Significant investment in developing countries can also avert rising risks, especially for vulnerable groups and regions.
Where the transitions have to happen the fastest and have the least access to finances in order for that to happen is in developing countries. That is where 84% of the world's population lives. These are the places which are going to be urbanizing very fast. They are the young population. That's going to be the future of the world.
So this is a message of hope, and as well at the same time, this is an important message for the world to take in, to make the economy, make the development clean and climate friendly.
The synthesis report was prepared by a team of 93 authors. It was the final element of IPCC's 6th assessment report and brought the 6th cycle to a close.
In this cycle, the IPCC organized 19 plenary sessions, twice as many compared to any previous cycle. Many took place under challenging circumstances of COVID-19 pandemic. More than 780 scientists volunteered their time and expertise to work on IPCC reports. 41% of them were from developing nations. 33% of IPCC reports were female scientists. During the drafting of the reports, more than 100,000 pieces of scientific literature were assessed. The IPCC Secretariat ensured that these important reports were delivered on time to contribute to the critical international negotiation on climate change under United Nations.
We understand that climate change is real. We've been having more hurricanes, more floods in the last couple of years. GIS help us to reach sustainability by moving people out of risk zones. That way we can, create a more sustainable environment. So at the housing department, we are, buying those properties, relocating those tenants from there, putting them in a different spot, and creating or reconverting those areas into reservoirs or, open space.
Protests around the world. Headlines about extreme weather events. Scientists and public figures calling for action. And governments uniting in the search for solutions. Climate change is a global issue, and we must work together to save our world. But what exactly is climate change? Our planet's climate has changed throughout history, alternating between ice ages and warmer periods. Earth has been through at least 5 major ice ages, with the last one ending nearly 12,000 years ago. So if the climate has always changed, why is climate change such a big issue today? Since the start of the Industrial Revolution in 1760, Earth's average temperature has risen faster than ever before. This effect is known as global warming, and it's caused by the increase of greenhouse emissions from human activity. Greenhouse gases occur naturally on our planet, but human activities such as the burning of fossil fuels, agriculture, deforestation, and the decomposition of waste in landfills have increased the amount of greenhouse gases dramatically. Greenhouse gases act like a blanket around Earth, trapping the heat from the sun's rays. This is called the greenhouse effect. Thanks to this effect, Earth has just the right temperature for life to thrive on it, unlike other planets in our solar system. However, if the greenhouse effect becomes too strong, it starts to cause issues. The increased temperatures we are experiencing now are causing ice in the Arctic and Antarctica, as well as glaciers and snow around the world, to melt. The water created by the melting ice pours into the oceans, causing sea levels to rise. This puts small islands in danger of disappearing, especially those in the Pacific and Caribbean regions. Rising sea levels are also causing devastating floods in many countries like China, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, and Thailand. These floods are not only a direct hazard to humans, but can also destroy crops and farms used to feed the population. Another effect of the rising temperatures is that oceans warm up and evaporate faster than normal, increasing the occurrence of severe storms and heavy rainfall. Global warming is making weather more extreme, bringing longer droughts and heat waves. The loss of soil moisture and the high temperatures during a drought increase the risk of wildfires too. The high temperatures both on land and in our oceans affect Earth's delicate ecosystems. Many animals are forced to migrate to other areas to survive, while others are losing their habitat and dying. So, can we do anything to stop the effects of climate change? Climate change has already reached a point that humanity has never experienced before. However, the future of our planet is in our hands. Communities must make smart choices and tackle this issue with environmentally friendly actions. Some solutions to limit global warming include switching from burning fossil fuels to renewable and greener energy sources like solar, hydroelectric, or wind energy. Reducing the emissions caused by industry and transportation by investing in greener technology. And limiting the deforestation of land and investing in more space-efficient forms of agriculture, like vertical farming. These are all big solutions, but there are also smaller things that you can easily do at home. For example, recycling, composting your organic waste, eating more veggies and fewer meat products, saving electricity, and buying things that last longer or can be reused. People around the world are working together to innovate, engineer, and develop solutions for the issue of climate change. Bhutan is the world's most carbon-negative country. Costa Rica has achieved 99% renewable energy. And China is now the world leader in wind power. Climate change is a global issue, and our future depends on the actions we take today. How is your community working towards a more sustainable future?